Alice was a very contented person. She lived alone but had lots of friends and a loving family. She lived a very full life and was always busy. That was until the virus struck and totally changed her life, together with many other people. Alice had 2 grandsons who she adored. She loved more than anything to snuggle down with them and read stories. The boys loved how Granny could make voices up in the story, and somehow they always sounded so much more exciting when she read them. For the first time that she could remember, Alice was lonely. The days stretched ahead of her and were empty. Time seemed to drag past so slowly. Alice found it hard to fill her time. The postman came occasionally, but he never delivered anything exciting, and he rarely spoke. Her shopping also came once a week, but otherwise it was just Alice, and long, long, lonely days. On yet another dark and wet day, Alice was sitting with a cold cup of tea which she had made, but didn't really want. She was flicking through a magazine that she found, and half reading a story in it. "That's rubbish," she said. "Even I could do better than that." And as she thought, the germ of an idea started to grow. "Perhaps I could write a story for the boys," she thought. "Well, I could at least try." So after lunch, she sat down with pen and paper. And she sat. And she sat. And after half an hour, she still had no idea what to write. Her cat Jessica was asleep on her feet, and as she moved, the cat looked up at her with big black eyes. Inspiration. She would write about a cat who could of course talk, but only to children. For the first time in weeks, Alice felt energised, and the day flew past. By the time she went to bed, she was tired, but the story was finished. She spoke to her son, and he explained to her how she could record it, and then the boys could actually hear her read it. So she settled herself on the sofa and read her story as if the 2 boys were with her. Her son phoned the next day. "Oh, Mum," he said, "they loved it, and they're going to write a story for you." And sure enough, at the end of the week, a big brown envelope came, and she smiled at the drawings and stories that the boys had said. So began a routine. Alice wrote her story, and a week or so later one came from the boys. The envelopes were always decorated and very often a funny shape. The postman now always had to knock because they wouldn't fit through the letterbox, and he was very interested to know why she was getting so much mail. When Alice explained that the post was stories from her grandsons, he explained to her that he was also a granddad, and he had 3 granddaughters, and they too loved stories. So Alice began to write for them too, and before long several people in the village were also asking if she would write for their family. Alice really enjoyed it. She just let her imagination run across the page and found magic in small things that she'd never noticed before. And of course the bonus too was that many of the children she wrote for wrote back to her, and she and the postman became firm friends. So out of a lonely, sad time came a whole new life for Alice.